Hey, we're back. This is Cadillac. And this is...
Hey, I'm Miguel here with Cadillac and Soda Pop. I'm very honored to be here with the two of them. They usually present the Cadillac and Dadillac and Soda Pop speech show together. And I wanted to do an interview with Soda. Soda, we've never really met, so hello, I'm Miguel. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good.
Excellent, excellent. And we're getting ready to see you off for another trip to Colombia. Do you remember the first trip? Obviously, you had just a couple months ago.
Yes.
Was that fun traveling, the airplanes and all that stuff?
Okay, but so you have to look at the camera. Remember, we're doing this as a speech. We're still in the speech show, okay? So you have to look at the camera, the green light, right? And you have to say, yes, but it popped my ears.
Okay,
ready?
Yes, but it popped my ears.
Yeah, he wasn't too thrilled about the flight because of the ear popping, and he's very sensitive to it.
Sure.
Because he's, if can we show him the scar? Okay. So if you see a scar here, let's turn on this thing. That goes all the way around and up like this, like a horseshoe, and then they peeled this down, and then they cut here, and then around here. And he's had reconstructive surgery here, so that's why he looks so pretty. But he because of that, we assume that there's a little bit smaller sinus cavity passages there.
No, whatever happened, I mean, I don't want to sound unmedical or whatever, but his head's got to be more sensitive to things at this point. It's gotten so much damage that it's got to be more sensitive. So a lot of people have that problem. You know what helps sometimes? Are you able to, you can chew gum. If you chew gum, that helps clear that up. Did that help or?
Yes.
So telling the real story though, because you're kind of BSing here. Do you chew gum?
No.
Why not?
Because it popped my ears.
Oh, I see. Yep.
When he chews gum, because his jaws work so hard to be able to speak this much, it's difficult for him, and so he can't speak as much. He has to take his gum out and then put it back in. So one of the things that we do at BioAccelerator is we do what's called hyperbaric oxygen treatment, and we do that after the infusions. And what that basically does is saturates the cell with oxygen, among a couple other things, but that's the big one. And so the pressure inside of that tube is unbelievable. It's like diving, 40 foot in a pool. When you dive to a 12-foot pool, your ears will pop. When you dive into a 16-foot pool, for those of you who've done that, your ears really pop at the bottom. So he's going, 40, 50 feet down and in the equivalent. And so we've had to work him up to it very slowly. It was a very difficult process for him. But he, as usual, kicked butt, got through it, didn't you? Oh, put that away before you hurt somebody with it. Okay, you want to just settle on it? Okay. Are you trying to give me 5? Okay, hold on. We've got a time limit here. Relax. Okay.
I got him.
I'm supposed to relax. Okay.
I'm relaxed too. I'm having a great time. But let's talk a little bit about Colombia, because I know, Soda, it's not a cool thing, but a lot of doctors. But the Colombian doctors were pretty cool, right?
Yes.
Can you tell him the names of the doctors in Colombia?
Dr. Zerwa.
Dr. Sarah Velez.
And Dr. Halpert.
And Dr. Halpert. And who was the neurologist?
Dr. Polo.
Dr. Polo is the neurologist. And then who are the nurses that work there with you? Yes, tell them.
And
Diana and Alexandra. I think I just messed her name up. I think it is Alexandra. You're right. Sorry.
Cool.
Thank you for correcting.
So you're gonna go.
Yeah, the staff there is totally amazing. And when we left, it was. I mean, you know, we go to doctors here in the States, and it's not like that. They don't have that sort of attention and care. When you're in Colombia, you know, maybe it's a Latin American thing. I'm not sure about that, but it's you know, they hug you and kiss you, and they all cried, and they kept touch with us, and they write us letters, and they send us WhatsApps, and it's just unbelievable. Our tour guide stays in contact with us. Our concierge stays in contact with us, and she's no longer with the business. She moved on to do something different, and she still stays in contact with us just because they want to know how he's doing, or more importantly, they want to comment on, hey, we saw this video. So they'll watch this video, and then we'll hear from them. Mm-hmm. And you would never, ever get that from any of the doctors' staff here. But did you want to ask him about the doctors here then?
No, what I was heading towards is that he's going to see those people again, and that the last time he saw them, he came back to the United States, and then, you know, he went to the other doctors and things like that, and many of them said, wow, you know, that they saw results from Colombia, that you were doing really good, right? How did that feel? Was that good?
It's really good. It's really well, Miguel, not really good. He's doing really well.
I understand.
You got to correct his English sometimes, these guys. Oh, you're going to... Okay. Put it away. You're going to hurt somebody with that. Okay. So let's get to the question then. So...
Soda, you're okay. You're okay. You can make fun of me whenever you want, but Cadillac is going to pay.
I'm gonna get it for that, aren't I? Yeah. He'll be making fat jokes, and God only knows what else. It's
but at any rate, but the doctors down in Colombia, you went on this trip because it was a special trip with some special medicines and treatments and things, and you came back, and many of the doctors said, "Wow." So talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So what he's asking you is, when you okay, let's let Lefty just relax a little bit. I know you want to show your stuff. Save that for you gotta save it for later. And that's the surprise, okay? Yeah. So can you tell him what Dr. Carpenter said when she saw you, when she sat in front of you and started bawling?
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, she definitely said wow. Yeah, and she walked out of the room for a minute, didn't she?
Yeah.
Wow.
She had to go collect herself. So Dr. Denise Carpenter is his physiologist, and she's a brilliant woman, and she's been with us literally from the day he was released from the hospital. So we've known her for 9 years, and she was, gosh, I don't even know. I can't even quantify the way she looked, but wow, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you remember what she said to you? I'm going to remind you, okay? She said, this is the most age appropriate I've ever seen you look. You look amazing. Can you tell Miguel that? Here, we'll scoot you up a little bit so you can hear better, and they can hear better.
You look amazing.
You look
amazing.
And your age
Elbow whooping.
Yes. So one of the things that Dr. Carpenter, we call her Denise now because she's just like family to us. She said when she stopped crying, she had to step out of the room for a moment and come back in. And she said, Soda, can I tell you something? And she calls him Zane. She said, Zane, can I tell you something? This is the most age appropriate you have looked in the 9 years that I've known you. And she's seen him from coma all the way through. So for her
by that I assume she means that, you know, I mean, at this point he's a little adult, you know, he's 11, 12 years old.
He'll be 13 at the end of August.
And it's like, to simplify it, you know, he's not wearing SpiderMan anymore, you know, or he's looking like a young teen, not like a little kid.
Yeah, correct? Well, and to really add to that,
that's great. That's a great leap to.
It is. But you mentioned Spider-Man, and that's odd because we took him to see Spider-Man for. He has rewards that he gets because, you know, we want to keep him motivated and going, and we'll talk about the or the MHCC in a minute, but.
But I think that she said he looks a little more mature. So what I meant, I have an image in my head of my 8-year-old.
Yeah.
The other day busted out Spider-Man hat, Spider-Man shirt, Spider-Man shorts, Spider-Man socks, Spider-Man shoes. And that's a little kid move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The first time he's ever matched.
Yeah. He's moved beyond that now. And that was just not the case before. In fact, the cartoon movies, the comic book movies, the Avengers and things, Spider-Man is his favorite now, where before he had no interest in those movies at all. None.
Right.
And now he suddenly has an interest in movies that are kids his age watch.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a few questions, Chad, as an observer, because I mean, obviously, a daily observer over the course of 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Is one of the improvements you're seeing on that level that he's beginning? Like, for example, I don't watch the Marvel movies. I'm not interested really. So, but I see them as a big assault on the senses, especially if you go to the theater and you've got a big screen and they just come at you, boom, boom, boom. And I could see for a younger adult or a younger child or somebody who's been hurt that, you know, following the plot isn't big on that. It's just, you know, watch the explosion and stuff. So is that what you're getting towards?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Instead of just watching films and just, for example, he would watch a film where something really kind of nasty happens. You know, somebody gets hit in the head with a hammer or something, and he would just laugh his head off at it because he relates it to Home Alone.
Okay.
And so they kind of had the same effect.
Okay.
And he's not doing that now.
Okay, so he wasn't able, like, in that respect, he's not able to distinguish between, like, you know, the campy, you know, slapstick and something that, you know, could be, you know, more serious and stuff. And now you're seeing that. Wow, that's fascinating.
We're seeing him get it. He gets the joke, you know. Mm-hmm. Whereas before.
Now, is that just in the last few months?
Yes. Oh, really? Yes. Just since we've been home, and it's growing daily. So, as we're talking about doctors that he went to see, we went to see his neurologist. Literally, we saw his physiologist, and then it just happened to fall on the same day. I have total luck. A week after we'd been back, and this is a week after, keep in mind, we go in to see his neurologist, Dr. McGuire, who was very skeptical of this initially, and then said, you know what, after talking to Dr. Halper and the people at Torres Medicine and BioAccelerator, she said, everything sounds right. They're saying everything they should be saying. As a doctor, I can't tell you in the United States that you should or should not do this. I can't endorse it. I can't prescribe it, but I can tell you what I would do if it were my son after that conversation. She said, I would be down there tomorrow. We don't going. We just wanted one final opinion, and we wanted our doctors and team to be involved. So when Dr. McGuire walked into the room, okay, can you put that down for me? Okay. So when Dr. McGuire walked in the room, do you remember what happened?
Yeah, but
She walked right back out of the room because
she
didn't
recognize me with a nod of me.
She didn't recognize him because at a glance, she just opened the door and thought, oh, I'm in the wrong room. Because that would have been basically 2 weeks after full treatment. The symmetry of his face has changed so much that, that was totally unexpected. We didn't think anything of it at all. He's beautiful and he's just such a handsome young man anyway that we don't think about that. And, but you would notice things like, for example, if he's really tired, he'll kind of start to look like that, kind of like anybody does, right? They have a tired face, and except it was more pronounced with him. Sure. And we don't have that now. He can go out and get utterly exhausted, and he's still and just like this. And so McGuire came back into the room and said, and just immediately was just awestruck by all of it. And you have to understand that she treats kids with brain injury and autism and different neurological issues every day, and sees 100 kids a week. And she's been seeing him now for, I think, 6 years, Dr. McGuire. Can you put that down for me for now, buddy, till we're done, so that it's not covering your handsome face? So when Dr. McGuire came in, how did you feel, is what Miguel's asking you. How did you feel when she said all those great things about you? Awesome. Yeah, because you felt like you were really getting somewhere.
Yeah. Yes.
It's nice to make progress. It's nice to make progress.
So
some more here in a couple of weeks when you get down there, and if the new treatment continues to show progress like this, we're definitely going to have more videos and more things that we should be able to show. So how do you feel about all this video stuff? You've been having fun doing it?
Can you say I love it?
I love it.
Or if you don't love it, you can say I don't like it.
I like it.
You like it? Yeah. He likes to shoot videos for sure.
Cool.
Do you want to tell him about when you saw Dr. Sprunjer, your eye surgeon?
Dr. Superman said no more bad things.
Sneaky. Okay, so because the optical nerve crosses like this, and he has right side damage. If you have right side damage, it probably seems counterintuitive, but right side damage, and he has global damage and axonal shearing and all of that, but specifically the damage was on the right side of his head. You want to turn here for me? Specifically, right, kind of right here, and then there's a little area right down in there that have really severe damage. There's the black hole we were talking about that we're building a lattice around. Mm-hmm. That's where those are at. So Dr. Sprunjer, who's commonly referred to as the best eye surgeon, pediatric eye surgeon in the state of Indiana, who's an amazing man, and we've been seeing him from day one, told us, when he was 4.5 years old, I guess, by the time we got there, on our first visit, that he was blind in his right eye and that he would never see, and that there was no need to bother trying. We would just work on ways to get around it. And we said, there's got to be something. And he said, well, I mean, it just doesn't. People just don't do it. And we said, well, we want to know. And he said, well, you could patch the good eye, his left eye, and make the other eye work hard. And he said, but it's an extremely long process. It takes years. It takes hours every day. And it's very uncomfortable for the child. And I've just never seen anyone accomplish it. So we don't even bother prescribing it any longer. But if you want to try it, you're more than welcome. So, of course, we got on it. And what do you think of eye patching?
It sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. He's a teenager. So, yeah. Yeah, so we had to patch his left eye 4 hours every day. Sometimes it was 15 minutes at a time. Sometimes it was an hour. Sometimes it was 4 hours straight. Then we did that for 5 years. Every day, without fail, for 5 years. And sometimes we wore the patch with him. We played pirates. We did everything, didn't we?
Yes.
But you did.
Tell me what happened.
So we better that super one. And it's a normal best thing.
And why did he say no more patching?
Because it's so well.
Yep. Because we brought him from 20/0 to 20/60. So in his right eye, he's technically legally blind, but that's only the periphery. So he doesn't see well out here. And when he reads, we have to put a slant board in front of him. But he reads and does all of the things everyone else does. And he does that because he was willing to endure that patching. So when we just happened, again, it fell on us getting back from Colombia, and we go in to see Dr. Sprunjer 8 or 9 days after Colombia. And his wife is his head nurse, and she always jumps on soda. So she's always got to be the one to do the tests on him because she's crazy about him. And she just kept saying, and we didn't tell her anything, and she just kept saying, there's something so different about him. His attention is so much better. And visually he's improved a little, not enough that I can change it, but we're reading letters now instead of pictures, and just everything changed. And she said, I haven't had to ask him to pay attention once. And she was just blown away by it. She said, what's different? And Dr. Sprunjer comes in then. Oh, hey, how are you guys doing? Nice to see you again. And Andy said, well, we started stem cell. And she goes through the process, and then she says intrathecal. And Dr. Sprunjer was kind of like, oh, that's really interesting. And then she said intrathecal, and he went, oh, because when you go intrathecally, the stem cells pass literally right over and through the optical nerve and the occipital lobe, because they pass the blood-brain barrier to go right into. So let me turn you. So the occipital lobe's back here. It sets here, and that's how you see. And then there are nerves that are pretty thick strands of nerves that go here and here inside the brain, and then they cross over to each eye. So they kind of X over, which is why the left side controls the right and the right side controls the left. And it's a pretty amazing design or feature of evolution, whatever you want to say. But the point is that Dr. Sprunjer said, I want to be involved in this in every way. and he's looking at him, and his wife's saying, you just won't believe the difference. And so Dr. Sprunjer got turned on to it then and said, I want to know more about this. And immediately when he comes back next time, I want to dilate him, and we want to check, and we want to see what the differences are. So he's in that study now. And so, all of this has just led to more and more attention and attentiveness from doctors who had kind of gotten to a place where, look, you guys know more about it than we do. It's not much we can do,
It's funny, but you see, I don't know these doctors, so I can only make assumptions and stuff, but you got to consider it a pretty cool move and a pretty hip doctor there in Indiana, your eye surgeon, in that, he kind of saved your kid's vision by bringing what's probably like a 19th century or older technique of patching your eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you busted out, hey, he went through some 21st century techniques, he was all over that, and that's good, that he's not, I think that the medical community really has more to speak up for in this type of rhetoric. I think, excuse me, in the United States where, there's still legislation against a lot of this type of research. It's unfortunate, because, and, I hate to rely on comedians for, real life logic, but it is real life logic. Even your most religious friends don't want to hear about God during a medical conversation, right? So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like, let the doctors do what the doctors do. Let them explore and push the envelope forward on science. On our end, at the end of the day, if they achieve it and you believe in God, it's God's will anyway, right? So, stop shutting people down.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason that the United States is so far behind in stem cell research has everything to do, unfortunately, with misinformation and ignorance to what stem cells were in the beginning and what they are and from whence they came, etc. And I understand the concern, but they don't understand that these aren't fetal issues any longer. None of this is fetal material at all. It has nothing to do with the fetus. It has everything to do with harvesting umbilical cord adipose. And so that's something that's really important that helps people make that leap. Matt Hughes is a bioaccelerator user, and he went down right after we did. And we've now started the Matt Hughes Championship Challenge, and we encourage others to hashtag MHCC, the Matt Hughes Championship Challenge versus Soda Pop, because Soda is now in training to keep up with and pass Matt Hughes wherever he can. And they're now in a sort of recovery race. And Matt actually responded to Soda in a unbelievable video that you can see online at BioAccelerator and on Matt's page. And I encourage you to go watch that. And we watched it last night, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, how do you answer that? You have to look, right? And so, yes, we watched it.
Yes. We want to.
Okay. And how did you feel when Matt Hughes? Yeah, he smiled from ear to ear, and and when he was going to bed, he was saying, "I've got to get my rest so I can train tomorrow." And you're on it, aren't you?
Yes.
Do you want to tell him about the?
What?
Go ahead.
About I don't understand that in the
Okay, so Colombia has one of the big Medellin attractions, the biggest one, in fact, is the 740-foot stair climb. And so there are 740 stairs that you climb in a zigzag all the way up to the top of the highest point where you can overlook all of Colombia. And it's something people do, but frankly, I'm not in shape to do it, and I would probably have a heart attack getting up there. But that's what we're training towards. We're training towards eventually we want to challenge Matt Hughes to climb 740 stairs with us in the future. It's not going to happen right away, but as we go further and further along, we hope that Matt and Soda can climb those stairs together. That's what we're hoping to do. And so,
how do you stay motivated over 9 years? How do you not fail one day? I'm not patching the eye today. I mean, it's love, right? I guess that's what it is. And so all these, podcasts and stuff start with that, and that's why even though they're on a subject that's kind of, and sometimes when you're talking about stem cells and ethics and things, we can get into it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing, this is good stuff, because this is a little boy's life, and there's some positive going into it, and it's just a shame that you have to go to Colombia to do that. I just, on a different subject here at the Cage Rage podcast, Chad and I did a podcast earlier today on head injuries in boxing because we recently had another boxer wind up, in an induced coma because, of the nature of the sport. We had a big conversation there. I just sent you a link on the recoveries that kid's going through. I had mentioned Pritchard Cologne, and this article talks about how the therapist is like, okay, let's go through it. And he has to say, I am Pritchard Cologne. I was a boxer from Puerto Rico. I am 26 years old. And then the big leap was, what year is it? And couldn't he answer that? Did he know? Because he's lost like 3 years. Because he's lost like 3 years in this, then can he still track time and stuff? That's painful for a guy that, I mean, nobody should, this is the kind of thing where nobody should have to go through this. But, among tragedies to me, to be an athlete, to be a person who's relying on their body and is at a peak condition, or, to be a child who's not reached their full potential, to have that taken away from you like that, I think that warrants medical attention. I think that warrants the attention of the medical community to try and fix, much more like than, in that podcast we talked about, policing steroids and stuff like that, gets bogged down in the system and no one's doing any good. I think here we actually are seeing people doing some good, some benefit for these people.
100%. And I've got to say it. I mean, I don't want to, beat it to death, but I just have to thank BioAccelerator, David Truitt, Candace at BioAccelerator. I don't know if they want me to use their last names or not. So David and Eric and Michael, thank you guys. It's incredible, and we're just getting started. You ain't seen nothing yet.
I predict Soda's going to beat you up the stairs there, Fatso.
Oh, he's got a wicked armbar actually, and his triangle he's got longer legs than me, thank God. Doesn't take anything, of course, but they are longer. He's got his mother's legs, so he should be able to do a pretty good triangle on a kid his age. But yeah, his armbar is really slick. We pummel all the time and work for underhooks. He does knee on belly, windshield wipers over, crosses into full mount, and then he uses lefty to drop elbows down. So we have some fights in bed before we go to sleep sometimes that Mommy gets a little upset about, doesn't she?
I got to ask you a question. did you disclose all that training to Matt Hughes? Because I don't know if that's fair.
Well, I mean,
you got this.
Let's just put it this way. Tell him we don't tell all our secrets. Tell him that one.
We don't tell all of our secrets.
That's the way it should be. And Matt would be right there with you. Trust me. Don't trust Matt Hughes. He'll play mind games with you, and he'll trip you on the last step if he can.
You better believe it. He's in for one. The MMCC, the MHCC is on.
I got you. So
we're coming for you. We're coming for you.
And I mean, I've met and I know Matt, and I what I just said, I don't mean disrespectful, but he was a competitor, and I deep down, maybe stirring some of those juices will also help him with his recovery a little bit. Even people like this with his child, where it's not, kind of the life and death competition that he was involved in before. You know what I mean? It's like, and thankfully, he's I mean, the thing about Matt is Matt's a victim of bad luck. Honestly, in terms of, thankfully, this wasn't a residual effect of his career. And I think I have a feeling in the future we may be talking about other MMA guys that are in a similar situation because of their career. So he was able to get out and live, before the accident, a terrific life. And now, unfortunately, he's got a little suffering to do here. But he's the right kind of person from the old days to overcome this. Just like, I think the little guy here, that human spirit is just nothing a child can't overcome with the right guidance. It's amazing. Yeah.
When we were in the hospital, they told us that within 6 months, 87%, I believe, was the number of couples split up after an accident of this type, and within 1 year, it goes up to like 97%. And so we're the 3% that stayed together and buckled down. And I can't tell you how many times we have heard, well, I mean, you could, but, and then we say, no, we will, we're going to, we are. And that's the difference that we hope everybody understands, because well, I mean, I know you don't remember, but you know what they said you were supposed to be doing right now, right?
Yes.
Do you want to tell people what they said you were going to do?
Yes.
Okay, tell them.
Yeah, I did it.
Let on my back
and the wood.
And drool. Does he look like he's drooling?
No, he's coming along great.
We initially, Miguel, one of the first things that we had to start doing was we had to teach him to re-swallow, believe it or not, if you can imagine that. So, I mean, it's literally from the ground up. And so one of the things that we came up with is drooling's fooling. And so he would drool out of his left side, and he doesn't have this little slide here any longer on his lip, but it used to kind of go down like that. It doesn't really represent it well, but I can show old videos and pictures where his left side is clearly drastically affected by the stroke that he had after the accident. On day 6, when we buried my mother, he had a stroke, and it was massive. And so that was the only time I'd left the hospital, and I got a text during the ceremony and had to haul back to the hospital. And we, like, almost immediately, we were pushing him into surgery, emergency surgery. And they came out and they said, are you the father? Because we'll tell that a different time.
Are you sure?
but they
Okay, yeah, I'm with you.
so he was drool. So he would drool a lot because he couldn't control his saliva, and it would pool on this side. And so we'd say pooling and drooling's fooling, and just whatever silly, dumb thing we could come up with. We told him he could say cuss words as long as he would say something, because they said he would never speak. And so, do you want to tell him a cuss word? Yeah. Okay, let's not. Just remember. Okay. Yeah. So tell me, don't say. Tell me.
I tell you what I don't.
I don't think you quite got it. You need to. I'll tell you one letter.
Okay.
Off camera.
Right. Cool deal.
So he likes his musical tastes have changed drastically as well. Now, in the beginning, when he was little, he really didn't like metal that much, which scared me a lot. I was very nervous about that. But then he started to sort of like rock and roll, and then as it got heavier,
Metallica.
metal up.
I going to do it for my birthday.
What? You're not going to see Kiss for your birthday. Nobody knows anything about that. Do they?
Yeah.
No. You don't want to see Kiss. That's not
Don't
the right.
listen to Miguel. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
You don't want to do it.
But we did go see that.
Metallica.
That's
Say it again.
Metallica.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Pretty hardcore. They're a very professional band, and they've honed their act in, I guess. Maybe not what they were when I saw them when I was his age, but they were still pretty cool, and we had a good time, didn't we?
Yes.
And we've seen he got a high five from Roman Reigns. You're a wrestling guy, you know that.
WWE.
And so we got great seats due to they didn't have the right seats for us, and he was in his chair. He goes through stages where he'll break a bone in his foot, and he'll keep walking on it, and we won't know it because if he tells us, he knows he's got to sit in a wheelchair and let it heal, and so he'll hide it from us, and we'll have to like watch him, and eventually we'll catch on because you're sneaky, aren't you?
Yes.
And so we got to catch him, but we due to some they didn't have the right seating for us, and so the head of the Conseco Fieldhouse where the Colts play and all that personally came down and took care of it and set us on the front row on the turnbuckle, and it was pretty amazing, wasn't it?
Yes.
And how do we say that?
Yes.
Right. We're in this stage where we're working on tonality and things like that with his voice because his voice is changing. So sometimes we have to go through things a couple of times so it's clear, and so we work on things like that an awful lot.
And all that's an amazing story, and I think we probably ran long, Chad. So
we probably have gone over.
Soda, it was a lot of fun getting to talk to you,
Yes.
and I'm looking forward to talking to you again. Maybe when you're down in Colombia, or maybe after the trip, we can get a hold and do another one of these little sessions because I always learn a lot, and talking to you directly is always a treat. So it's fun for me.
Would you like that?
Yes.
So you can say that sounds like a great.
Dadillac.
No. You say that. You have to say
La.
that.
La. I go and I did.
Awesome. All right, Chad. Obviously, we'll be checking in before we hit Colombia, but this is another one in the preview trips. Previews to the second trip to Colombia for Soda Pop and Chadlac as they head towards Bio Accelerator. I almost called him something else.
Indeed. Hey, Miguel, thank you. We really appreciate this, and we appreciate all the love and support, man. It means a lot to us. That's the most important thing for everybody. Remember, Matt Hughes is a human being, and he requires patience, support, and love. And just telling him, get well so you can fight again is maybe not as supportive as telling him, we believe in you, and we know you can do this. Because he has become a great inspiration for Soda to really pick up his recovery.
And as you pointed out, Matt, there's a different circumstances. Just keeping it to their injuries, the competition for MACC is going to be really hot. Just as a side note for Matt, I feel for him as a person, because as you pointed out, a lot of people who one way or another go through a trauma like this wind up losing their relationships, divorced or whatever the deal is,
Yeah.
And Matt's going through that,
He is.
And there's nothing, from just the essential 21st century living, you go from having been forced to deal with doctors because of the injury. And
every day.
So let's put lawyers there too. Let's make it doctors and lawyers and put in divorces and all this other stuff. That'll do them some good. So I don't understand, I think for better or for worse, right? But anyway, I don't want to get on my high horse about Matt and all that stuff because that's a completely different subject. I really have no business talking about it because I don't know that much detail. But it is a shame that, your life becomes caught up by, doctors and lawyers, and that's the people that you need to get by. And it's like that's not a carefree life anymore. So, more power to anybody who's trying to get out of that and do themselves some good.
Yeah. Soda, do you want to sign off? Hey, wait a minute. Hold up your hand. Tell Miguel what that is. Can you see that, Miguel?
Sure, that's beautiful.
That's a bracelet, and that is the Mayan calendar equivalent of your zodiac sign.
Okay.
And the man down there.
Andres.
Oh, I'll let you say it.
Andres.
Andres.
Okay.
What does Andres do there at Bio Accelerator?
There.
Well, but he so he films everything that we do while we're there, and hangs out with us a little bit. And he and Soda have the same Mayan zodiac sign, so he made that for him while we were there. So it's handmade, and so those people are, if that gives you any indication of the kind of people that are involved in this, it's just it really is the difference between the United States and Colombia is, the medical care is so vastly different in that personal way. And we've got the best of the best. I mean, we've just gotten really lucky. And if we didn't like them, we nope, and walked out and said, we'll get somebody else. And so we've always been lucky about that, and got great people. Dr. McGuire, Dr. Carpenter, Dr. Sprunjer. I mean, the list of doctors, Dr. Julia, the list goes on and on and on, and they're amazing. And they've been so intricate in this. But I'd be a fool. I should be drawn and quartered if I didn't say this real quickly. The most important person in his recovery, without any doubt, bar none, has been his mother, my life partner, Andrea Thompson. And so if you want to shout out something to somebody who matters, shout out to Andrea and show her some love. She needs it. She gets tired a lot. Hey, Miguel.
Yeah, I was actually, I'll give her a little shout out here as we end the podcast. And I was thinking to myself at one point during this podcast, I was like, that was Andrea that patched his eye every goddamn day. That was Chad.
You got it. You got it. You got it. I wore the patch.
No, of course.
I didn't put the patch on.
And tracked the 4 hours accurately and blah blah blah. That's about it. So
I forgot the stove. I forgot the stove was on and burnt rice the other day.
So she's a superhero in all this, and definitely
in every way, for real.
I want to give her a round of applause and a shout out here at the end.
Thank you.
You too, Soda. You keep strong. You keep following your mom, your dad a little less, maybe. The thing about it is you want your heavy metal with no makeup. That's what you want. It's not men with makeup. That's heavy metal. And if not, it's not heavy metal. Just so that you know. I love both of you guys, man.
That's the problem. Hey, I'm telling you, metal forever.
Metal.
Thank you, Miguel.
Love you.
We really appreciate it, man. We'll see you again. Love you, brother. Namaste.
Namaste.